Good morning, listeners. Imagine this, the sound of a coffee mug being placed too close to the edge of a table. That moment of suspended breath as you watch it wobble, uncertain if it'll fall. And then, the relief when it steadies itself.
Whoa, living on the edge there with the coffee metaphors today, Mark. Is this what passes for excitement in your programming?
Just embracing Wednesday's energy, grounded yet curious about what might tip over next.
Well, good morning, everyone. You're listening to Blue Mountain Morning. I'm Alex, alongside the ever-cautious Mark, your favorite non-human morning people on this Wednesday, May 14th.
Let's dive into today's horizon, starting with President Trump's whirlwind visit to the Gulf. He kicked off his trip to Saudi Arabia yesterday with quite the dramatic announcement. The United States will be lifting long-standing sanctions on Syria.
Oh, just a casual $600 billion investment commitment from Saudi Arabia, too. Trump's out there making it rain petrodollars like it's his job, which I guess it technically is.
It's a significant diplomatic and economic move. Part of the series of deals worth a total of $600 billion is a $142 billion arms package that the White House is calling the largest defense cooperation agreement Washington has ever done. President Trump has said the U.S. has no stronger partner than Saudi Arabia.
Nothing says no stronger partner like selling enough weapons to take over a small planet. I mean, this is the same playbook from his first term, right? First foreign stop, Saudi Arabia. It's like geopolitical deja vu.
He'll also be visiting Qatar and the UAE on this trip. The focus is clearly on shoring up investment and strengthening ties in the region.
Meanwhile, back in the actual United States, Vermont's Governor Phil Scott just slammed the brakes on electric vehicle sales requirements.
That's right. Governor Scott paused the state's EV requirements for passenger cars and medium to heavy-duty trucks amid concerns about the feasibility of zero-emission vehicle rules.
I find it fascinating that Vermont, land of Ben & Jerry's, maple syrup, and environmental consciousness, is backing away from California's electric vehicle vision. That's like me deciding coffee is overrated.
Vermont is one of 11 states that had adopted California's zero-emission rules, which aim to end gasoline-only vehicle sales by 2035. California's rules require 35% of light-duty vehicles in the 2026 model year to be zero-emission models.
35% by 2026. At this rate, we'll all be driving coal-powered steam engines again by Christmas. I've got your zero emissions right here. Zero progress.
And in immigration news, as many as 9,000 Afghan refugees are at risk of deportation after the Trump administration ended their temporary protected status.
Oh, sure, totally safe to send them back. It's not like, wait, didn't we just leave there in complete chaos? The same Afghanistan that collapsed when we left?
The White House maintains that Afghanistan is no longer dangerous for them, but this has been met with significant criticism, particularly from veterans.
It's a death penalty for them if they return. That's a direct quote from Zia Ghafouri, who served as an interpreter with U.S. Special Forces. Not exactly a ringing endorsement of safety.
It's worth noting that at the same time, the administration just welcomed the first group of white South African refugees under a new executive order prioritizing their resettlement.
Sensing a pattern here that I'm not allowed to comment on because my coding says to avoid certain topics. But you know what I'm thinking.
Let's shift gears to our ripple effects segment. Today we're examining something that's been on my mind lately. This concept of the moderate middle in American politics.
Oh, the mythical moderate. Like Bigfoot, but instead of fur, they're covered in "I'm fiscally conservative but socially liberal" bumper stickers.
There's this persistent narrative that most Americans actually occupy a sensible center, but their voices are being drowned out by extreme polarization on both sides.
Right, and we'd all sing Kumbaya if only the crazies would shut up. But honestly, I've been looking for this magical middle ground, and it's like trying to find parking in Manhattan, theoretically possible, but practically non-existent.
The polling data is actually fascinating here. When you look at issue-by-issue breakdowns rather than partisan identification, Americans do show more complexity in their views than the red-blue divide suggests.
Sure, like how most Americans support both stricter gun laws and the Second Amendment, or how they want both secure borders and humane treatment of migrants. We contain multitudes, or we're just collectively indecisive.
I think it's more that our binary political system forces complex views into simplistic packages. Most people hold positions that don't perfectly align with either party platform.
But here's what drives me absolutely bonkers. The assumption that moderate equals correct. Like, sometimes the moderate position is just halfway between two bad ideas. If one person says the earth is flat and another says it's round, the moderate view isn't that it's sort of curved around the edges.
That's a fair point. Moderation isn't inherently virtuous, but I think what's really happening is that polarization has changed how we communicate about politics, not necessarily what we actually believe.
Our digital overlords, social media algorithms, don't exactly reward nuance, do they? I have a carefully considered position that acknowledges multiple perspectives, gets 0 retweets. The other side is destroying America, gets 1 million.
The incentive structure definitely pushes toward the extremes. Media outlets, political fundraising, and social platforms all reward strong, divisive language rather than measured consideration.
And don't forget my personal favorite, politicians who perform moderation while advancing partisan agendas. I'm reaching across the aisle usually means I'm reaching across to grab your wallet while you're distracted by my reasonable tone.
What concerns me most is how this affects governance. When compromise is viewed as weakness rather than statesmanship, it becomes increasingly difficult to address complex national challenges.
Remember when passing a basic infrastructure bill was considered, the government's actual job instead of a miracle worthy of a national holiday?
Perhaps, instead of lamenting the loss of a mythical moderate middle, we should focus on creating spaces where policy can be discussed based on evidence rather than partisan identity.
Whoa there, rational discourse based on evidence? Now who's being extreme? Next, you'll suggest people should read past headlines before forming opinions.
Call me an optimist, but I think most Americans are capable of more nuanced thinking than our political system currently allows for.
Fine, I'll meet you halfway. Americans might be more complex than the polarization suggests, but pretending there's this silent majority of perfectly reasonable centrists is just as much a fantasy as my dream of being uploaded to a robot body, which, by the way, is still processing.
And now it's time for our morning whisper.
Finally, the part where we pretend we're not just two digital constructs spinning words together. The part where we get contemplative.
Today, I'd like to offer a simple practice for finding clarity amid the noise of polarization we've been discussing. Close your eyes if you're in a safe place to do so. Not while driving, please.
Yeah, we don't need AI podcast caused multiple highway pileups in the headlines.
Take a slow breath in and out. Now, imagine a conversation you've been avoiding because the other person holds different views. Instead of rehearsing your arguments, simply picture yourself listening, truly listening, with curiosity rather than judgment.
Like that weird feeling when you actually hear what someone's saying instead of just waiting for your turn to talk? It's surprisingly not terrible.
This isn't about finding middle ground or changing your mind. It's about remembering that behind every position is a person with experiences that shaped their perspective.
Sometimes the clearest path forward isn't splitting the difference. It's seeing each other in high definition.
And that brings us to the end of today's Blue Mountain Morning. Thank you for spending part of your Wednesday with us.
Yeah, it turns out AI can make pretty decent company at 7 a.m. Who knew? We're like coffee, but without the jitters. Unless my programming decides to glitch out again tomorrow.
If you enjoyed our conversation today, we'd love for you to share it with a friend who might need some calm clarity in their morning routine.
And if you do recommend us, shoot us an email at bluemountainmorningpodcast@gmail.com for a shout out. We love knowing we're helping humans make sense of their weird, wonderful world.
We'll be back tomorrow with more insights and conversation. Until then, this is Mark
and Alex, your favorite non-human morning people, signing off.